Welcome back to Ruach Teaching Ministry. I'm the Rev, and this is part 3 of the miracles of Jesus listed in chronological order. And go back, and if you've just clicked on this particular one, go back to part 1, or you will be starting halfway. I'm already at the 20th miracle of Jesus, where he walks on water. So stay with me. And I expect to need another 2 parts to finish all 37 chronological, but I have actually found 38. One of them might actually be a crossover with the original 37 listed in the Bible. So Jesus walks on water, found in Matthew 14, verses 22 to 33. And it's also in Mark 6, 45 to 52, and John 6, 16 to 21. So immediately after this is immediately after they fed the 5,000. It was probably the same evening. I would say the same evening. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. Yes, he had just fed the 5,000. He was sending the people home. He told the disciples, get into the boat while he sent the people away. And after sending the people home, that is telling them to go home, he didn't drive them home, Jesus, went up into the hills by himself to pray. Okay, now he told the disciples to get in the boat and cross to the other side. So the disciples had already left. They'd already pushed their boats out and were rowing or sailing across. So night fell while he was up in the hills alone by himself to pray. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. This is not the first time they've encountered a storm. In the earlier miracle, Jesus calmed the storm. But anyway, here they're on their own because Jesus had told them, go across, and Jesus had gone up to the hills to pray. So they were fighting heavy waves. The next verse says, about 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. Can you imagine? What an awesome spectacle sight that would be. When the disciples saw him walking on water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. Can you imagine that? He actually walked on the water just like Jesus. Next verse says, "But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. 'Save me, Lord,' he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. 'You have so little faith,' Jesus said. 'Why did you doubt me?' When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshipped him. 'You really are the Son of God,' they exclaimed." Miracle 21. Jesus heals many sick in Gennesaret as they touch his garment. This is in Matthew 14, 34 to 36, and also in Mark 6, 53 to 56. After they had crossed the lake, they landed at Gennesaret. It's a continuation. So after they crossed the lake, they landed at Gennesaret. When the people recognized Jesus, the news of his arrival spread quickly throughout the whole area, and soon people were bringing in all their sick to be healed. They begged him to let the sick touch at least the fringe of his robe, and all who touched him were healed. And I believe, so that is a very quick one, just 3 verses. So many sick, they just begged him to let them touch the fringe of his robe, and all who did so were healed. Miracle 22, Jesus heals a Gentile woman's demon-possessed daughter. This is the only instance where Jesus did this. This is in Matthew 15, 21 to 28, and is also in Mark 7, 24 to 30. Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman who lived there came to him, pleading, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely." But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. "Tell her to go away," they said. "She is bothering us with all her begging." Then Jesus said to the woman, "I was sent only to help God's lost sheep." That is Israel, the Jewish people. The people of Israel. But she came and worshipped him, pleading again, "Lord, help me." Jesus responded, "It is not right to take the food from the children and throw it to the dogs." She replied, "That's true, Lord, but even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall under their master's table." "Dear woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great. Your request is granted." And her daughter was instantly healed. Another instance of instant healing. That's right away. And this is a Gentile woman. She didn't even belong to the house of David. She didn't even belong to, she was not even a daughter, nor was her daughter who was sick. They were not children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They did not worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yet it does say here that as she came pleading, she called him Lord, and she worshiped him, pleading again, "Help me." And even though Jesus said that, I should not give to you what is meant for the children of Israel, and she said, "But at least I'm even at least entitled to the leftovers from the children of Israel, right? The scraps that fall beneath the master's table, which the dogs can eat." And Jesus commended her. He called her "dear woman." And I believe that's very likely the same phrase that he used for his earthly mother Mary at the miracle of Cana. "Dear woman" is "ma'am. Your faith is great. Your request is granted." That just blows me away, that Jesus would do that for a non-Jew. He would do that because she believed. And that's what being a Christian is all about. Jesus says, just believe. You don't have to go through all these rites and rituals and traditions of men and all these things. Just believe. And she believed, and she was commended, and her daughter was instantly healed. And the scripture does not say, but I would not be surprised if, because of her faith, she believed in Jesus all the rest of her days, and that when we get to heaven ourselves, let's not be surprised when we see her there. Okay, miracle 23. Jesus heals many people, and I think this is the one that adds to the 37. It wasn't in my list, but I discovered it as I was going through the scripture. Matthew 15, verses 29 to 31. Jesus returned to the Sea of Galilee and climbed a hill and sat down. A vast crowd brought to him people who were lame, blind, crippled, those who couldn't speak, and many others. They laid them before Jesus and healed them all. The crowd was amazed. Those who had not been able to speak were talking, and the crippled were made well. The lame were walking, and the blind could see again. And they praised the God of Israel. Wow. Wow. Jesus healed them all, it says. They brought many people to him, and he healed them all. And you know what? Having done ministry prayer ministry, prayer intercession, intercessory ministry, and having done deliverance ministry and inner healing ministry, ministry is draining. It's exhausting. Imagine a lot of these miracles, Jesus performed a lot of them back to back in one day while traveling by boat and on foot. He truly is the Son of God. Miracle 24, Jesus heals a deaf man with a speech impediment. Mark 7, verses 31 to 37. So Jesus left Tyre and went up to Sidon before going back to the Sea of Galilee and the region of the 10 towns, also known as Decapolis. A deaf man with a speech impediment was brought to him, and the people begged Jesus to lay his hands on the man to heal him. Jesus led him away from the crowd so they could be alone. He put his fingers into the man's ears. Then, spitting on his own fingers, he touched the man's tongue. You may say, ew, but this is what Jesus did. No ew. Next verse says, looking up to heaven, he sighed and said, Ephphatah, which means be opened instantly. Oh, again, I love it when this happens, when Jesus ministers. Instantly, the man could hear perfectly, and his tongue was freed so he could speak plainly. So Jesus told the crowd not to tell anyone, but the more he told them not to, the man spread the news. So I don't know if I missed a part. Instantly, the man could hear perfectly, and his tongue was freed so he could speak plainly. Then Jesus told the crowd not to tell anyone, but they spread the news. They were completely amazed, and they said again and again, everything he does is wonderful. He even makes the deaf to hear and gives speech to those who cannot speak. Praise God. Miracle 25. Jesus feeds 4,000 plus women and children. This is the second feeding of a mass crowd. Matthew 15, verses 32 to 39, and also Mark 8, verses 1 to 13. So they're in different, the feeding of the 5,000 earlier and the feeding of the 4,000 are in different chapters in Matthew and Mark. So there are two different occurrences, two different feedings of a large crowd. So Matthew 15, Jesus then called to his disciples and told them, I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, or they will faint along the way. The disciples replied, where would we get enough food here in the wilderness for such a huge crowd? Jesus asked, how much bread do you have? They replied, 7 loaves and a few small fish. Now, quick aside, in the previous feeding of the 5,000, it was 5 loaves and 2 fish. In this one, the feeding of the 4,000, they had 7 loaves and a few small fish. So Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, thanked God for them, and broke them into pieces. He gave them to the disciples, who distributed the food to the crowd. They all ate as much as they wanted. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. In the previous feeding of the 5,000, they picked up 12 baskets. This one, they picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. There were 4,000 men who were fed that day, in addition to all the women and children, and who knows how many of those there were. Then Jesus sent the people home, and he got into a boat and crossed over to the region of Magadan. Miracle 26. Jesus heals a blind man at Bethsaida. Mark 8, verses 22 to 16. When they arrived at Bethsaida, some people brought a blind man to Jesus, and they begged him to touch the man and heal him. Jesus took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. Then, spitting on the man's eyes, he laid his hands on him and asked, Can you see anything now? The man looked around. Yes, he said, I see people, but I can't see them very clearly. They look like trees walking around. Then Jesus placed his hands on the man's eyes again, and his eyes were opened. His sight was completely restored, and he could see everything clearly. Jesus sent him away, saying, Don't go back into the village on your way home. So Jesus heals this blind man. Now, the next miracle number 27, is Jesus heals a man born blind. But let's back up a little bit. This blind man at Bethsaida, he was very clearly was not born blind. Why do I say that? I say that because when Jesus first spat in the man's eyes, he says here, he spat on the man's eyes. He laid his hands on him and asked, Can you see anything now? And the man said, Yes, I see people, but I cannot see them very clearly. They look like trees walking around. So that is evidence that this man had sight before, because he knew what people and what trees looked like. Well, he probably had glaucoma or cataract or something, because he had been able to see before. Otherwise, he would not know what people or trees looked like, unlike the next miracle. And of course, Jesus placed his hands on the man's eyes again, and his sight was completely restored. Glaucoma gone, cataract healed, and whatever else was retinal detachment, whatever else had gone wrong with this man's eyes, were completely healed, and he could see everything clearly. Miracle 27. Jesus heals a man born blind. John 9, verses 1 to 11. Just checking my mic there. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Rabbi, his disciples asked him, Why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or his parents' sins? Jesus answered, It was not because of his sins or his parents' sins. This happened so that the power of God could be seen in him. We must quickly carry out the tasks assigned us by the one who sent us. The night is coming, and then no one can work. But while I am here in the world, I am the light of the world. Jesus makes a declaration that he is the light of the world. Then he spit on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and spread the mud over the blind man's eyes. He told him, Go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam. Siloam means sent, S-E-N-T. So the man went and washed and came back seeing. So obviously somebody had to help him get there or take him there, but he went, came back, washed his eyes in the pool of Siloam, came back seeing. The next verse, his neighbors and others who knew him as a blind beggar asked each other, Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? Some said he was, and others said, No, he just looks like him. But the beggar kept saying, Yes, I am the same one. And they asked him, Who healed you? What happened? He told them, The man they called Jesus made mud and spread it over my eyes, and he told me, Go to the pool of Siloam and wash yourself. So I went and washed, and now I can see. So Jesus healed him. Now, if you go on and read the rest of that chapter, there was a big brouhaha after that, because the Pharisees and the teachers of the law kept questioning him and asking him the same thing, and questioned his parents and asked them the same thing, because they demanded to know who did this, and they refused to believe that it was the same man, and they even insulted the blind man who had been healed. And then they found fault with Jesus, of course. But I'm not going to read the rest of that chapter. Go ahead and read the rest of John chapter 9. Okay, read the whole of John chapter 9 after this part 3. The 28th miracle, Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. And this can be found in Matthew 17, 14 to 20. It's also in Mark 9, 14 to 29, and Luke 9, 37 to 43. At the foot of the mountain, a large crowd was waiting for them. A man came and knelt before Jesus and said, Lord, have mercy on my son. He has seizures and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him. Jesus said, Jesus said, you faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Then Jesus rebuked the demon in the boy, and it left him. From that moment, the boy was well. Afterward, the disciples asked Jesus privately, why couldn't we cast out that demon? Jesus told them, you don't have enough faith. I tell you the truth, if you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. Jesus rebuked the demon in the boy, and it left him, and he was well. He no more suffered seizures. We're not sure, they could have been epileptic seizures or some other kind of seizure. They were gone. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what they were, right? He was healed. Miracle 29. The miracle of the temple tax in the fish's mouth. Matthew 17, 24 to 27. On their arrival in Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and asked him, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? Yes, he does, Peter replied. Then he went into the house. But before he had a chance to speak, Jesus asked him, what do you think, Peter? Do kings tax their own people or the people they have conquered? Peter replied, they tax the people they have conquered. Well, then Jesus said, the citizens are free. However, we don't want to offend them, so go down to the lake, throw in a line, open the mouth of the first fish you catch, and you will find a large silver coin. Take it and pay the tax for both of us. If that doesn't leave you in awe, I don't know what will. I mean, if you think about the mechanics and the logistics of it, for a fish to be caught by Peter at that exact moment, shortly after the collectors of the temple tax came to ask Peter about it, and going back as to when exactly that fish swallowed that coin and how that coin came to be in the lake in the first place and who had dropped it, being the exact amount required for the temple tax for both Jesus and Peter. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and he is one with the Father. He is all-seeing, all-knowing, and ever present. For him to know that, it leaves me speechless, except to go on to the next miracle, number 30, and I'll end part 3 with this miracle number 30. Jesus heals a blind, mute, demon-possessed man. This is found in Matthew 12, 22 to 23, and in Luke 11, 14. Then a demon-possessed man who was blind and could not speak was brought to Jesus. He healed the man so that he could both speak and see. The crowd was amazed and asked, could this be that Jesus is the son of David, the Messiah? Wow. Earlier we had a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment. And now we have a demon-possessed man who was blind and couldn't speak. And Jesus healed him so that he could both speak and see. Jesus is a wonderful God. I will endeavor to end part 3 of this miracles of Jesus right here. And so go back and watch Miracles of Jesus part 1 and part 2. And then I will have part 4, which will conclude this whole series of 37 miracles plus 1. So in the meantime, go back, like, subscribe, and share these videos of good gospel teaching. And share with as many people as you know, especially the evangelistic messages, But even beyond that, if you don't like my evangelistic messages, that's okay. Perhaps you'll find something more interesting in the other teachings of the Bible. So the evangelistic messages are meant to challenge you because there's only one way to heaven, and that is through Jesus. And in my evangelistic teachings and messages, which are straight from the Bible, I tell you that other religions, false religions, cults, good deeds, good works, education, knowledge, qualifications, your pastor, preacher, your church tradition, your religious tradition, the traditions of men, not even Judaism, can get you into heaven. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. You're a whoever, I'm a whoever. God sent his son Jesus to suffer and die for us, to take on the full extent of the law and the full punishment of, of the blood requirement for the forgiveness of sin. All we need to do is believe. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. I am the Rev. This is Ruach Teaching Ministry. God bless you all.